EPRA is yet or set to review the fuel prices by 15th of this month, as they do that every month. And in that wake, the ODM and Azimio leader wants the prices of fuel to, of course, in the country to be reduced significantly following the reduction of crude oil prices in the world market. He was speaking in Kajiado, that is Kajiado East constituency, during a Thanksgiving ceremony where Raila Odinga said it would be unfair for EPRA not to review or reduce the prices of petroleum in the wake of what's happening in the world market. According to Raila Odinga, these particular prices should be reduced by 45 shillings or even 50 shillings per litre to cushion Kenyans from the pressure caused by the high cost of living. And in fact, Maliba, he said, do not just reduce it by 2 shillings, 5 shillings. According to him, there is huge possibility of realistically pushing down these prices by 50 shillings. Still on the state of the economy, please give us your submissions.
First of all, we have got a very strange culture when it comes to oversight. We've made oversighting look like it's an enmity, it has to be a brawl or something like that. It's a fact that on 14th, EPRA will bring down the cost of fuel by between 7 shillings and 10 shillings. That is a fact.
They will bring it down. You already are confirming this.
If you use that particular formula they have always used and look at the current stock that we actually are going to, that is being brought in, you can actually expect reduction in fuel between 7 shillings and 10 shillings.
Okay.
So Raila, having actually worked out that, he then realizes that he has to rain on the parade of the administration by now raising the stake. When he puts it at 45, he wants to ensure that when you reduce it by 7 shillings and 10 shillings, you don't look like you've worked. He's bargaining. Of course, that is political, so it's expected. But you can actually, Kenyans can actually expect comfortably that fuel will go down between 7 shillings to 10 shillings. That is out there. You don't need to be a person in the energy sector. You don't need to be EPRA. Okay. Just look at the pricing at the time, because you know when the fuel that should be here was actually procured. So that is out there. But then before that happens, we have got an opposition that has raised stakes, which is also good, ensuring that there's dialogue. But be that as it is, there are a few things I need to actually respond to.
I just wanted to ask you one question on that one. Don't go very far. Yeah. Do you know the breakdown of how much a litre of fuel goes to the government in terms of the cost?
When we talk about going to government,
because what I know very well is that over 83 shilling goes to the government in terms of tax. Right. And what Raila is saying is as let's have those costs reduced.
First of all,
please respond to that as well.
You know, about 42% are levies and taxes. They have got different roles they play. They don't go to the same agency. The government does not take all of it. And by the way, all of those levies were established in 2008, a majority of them when Raila was the Prime Minister. But 2008. I told you, Wakili can be. But that's the story.
Let's let him finish.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yes.
So, as it were,
the levies and the taxes.
The levies and taxes. I've actually just used the same formula, using the same levies to actually tell you that you expect fuel to come down by between 7 shillings and 10 shillings. But what Raila is actually saying is unrealistic. He's not broken down anything. He's not gone back to that matrix that was established during his day, by the way. But be that as it is, I actually want to speak about a government being broke. All governments on earth are technically broke. If governments were not broke, the term fiscal deficit wouldn't exist. A fiscal deficit says that we have got this that we want to spend, but we do not have that money, so we will have to go into Bambanya and get it. I will actually remind you, last year in February, I think Rotich spoke about the government being broke. Initially, well, after that, Yatani spoke about government being broke. That was not Kenya Kwanza. So when Yuguna Ndungu says a language that treasury ministers across the world are used to saying, you see, so when we speak about the technicality of government being broke, a lot of times it just means that government is not liquid. Because if this week I have got a check that has not been cashed, it doesn't mean I am broke. It just means that I am illiquid. So, and a lot of times when there is illiquidity, it's sorted by, are we having problems with bonds? No. Sales of bonds? No. Normally, this week's problems are solved with the next week's sale of bonds. So that is not something we really need to run away with, because if you just looked at your Google, you will realize how many times our finance ministers have actually said that we are broke. So we cannot start running around as if the house is burning. Of course, our democracy is quite noisy.
All right. And is it the same terminology as empty coffers?
And I need to, I will get to that.
Okay.
And then I need to actually speak about this again. You know, when people, I think what we lack today largely is, and that is not asked of us, pundits who come here, because we come here to give our opinion, we come here to give our thoughts, our expertise, our competences and experiences.
Yes.
But when I look at the media, for example, running with a story about the 30%, taxes borrowed and everything around that, do you know what that story actually fails in? It fails in an objectivity test by number one, saying that by the time William Ruto came in, he had about 9.4 trillion in debt. And do you know what? 25% of that matured this year. 25%. We are talking about over trillion. No, that is a fact.
Arnold, I cannot let you base the media's analysis on one paragraph.
That's what I'm saying.
That entire analysis on this paper.
That's what I'm actually telling you.
There is the aspect of the shilling.
But then when you are quoting that story, we are quoting the 30%. That's what you quoted.
I can quote the entire thing. Let me quote the debt. The timing is yet to be ascertained. All this. If I wanted to read all the paragraphs,
so I'm telling you. So that's what I'm actually telling you. First of all, I wanted to do a fair and objective comparison.
All right.
So you cannot compare Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure and William Ruto's tenure, because Uhuru Kenyatta found 1.6 trillion over debt. What has William Ruto found? He has found 9.4. And now with inflation, it's gone up to 10. So it's not the same. And 25% of our debt did not mature in 2013 when Uhuru Kenyatta came in. But this particular time, William Ruto comes in and 25% of it is actually maturing. So what are we saying? That IMF is giving us cheaper loans that are actually retiring the other ones that are falling due.
Okay.
So why are we not looking at that to balance a story? We cannot have a story that is one-sided, running with cheap epithets.
The future, we must know one thing. The future, the present is determined by the past.
Yes. And when we get this fix about the past, you say it's wrong.
If we don't reflect on that, in terms of figures, we are talking about in terms of figures. We are not talking about in terms of blames. We were here at this juncture when we took. This is the progress we have done, and we are heading there in such a period. But when you give us a 10-year term that you will going to make significant changes or difference in terms of the current things that you have come across, it becomes very difficult to absorb that. Tell us exactly, this is how we have found it. Here is where we are currently.
I would actually, I am not regarding Gachagua, but I will tell you what the agreement has actually
come back to you, Maliba, after I hear from Wakili Omari as well on this matter.
The situation is so simple. President Uhuru Kenyatta elected 2013.
Yes.
His deputy is William Ruto. For 10 years, the deputy president, executive deputy president in position. Today, he is saying he came in and found empty coffers, as if he was not that inside.
Well, there was a face-off.
Kimani Ichung'wah was the big boy in parliament for 8 years. Duale was the majority leader in parliament. All these people, the 8 core, were in the Jubilee government. Today they are telling you, we were never there when money was being borrowed. Number 2, my good friend Maliba, I think you should retract this. When you are telling us that Raila Odinga is the architect of the fuel levy.
I didn't say that.
He was the minister then.
I think a number of those levies were introduced from 2008.
Those prime minister. If they were introduced, what stops you from abolishing them? You have the
there was a purpose.
Just a minute.
There was a purpose for which they were instituted.
If they were introduced,
I would ask you to note down and respond after.
If they were introduced and they served the purpose, the test of the pudding is the question. Were Kenyans having food on their pocket at a cheaper cost that time? Yes. Were Kenyans having food by the time we were going to elections at a cheaper price? Good. Were Kenyans having fuel at a cheaper price under Uhuru Kenyatta? Yes. what happened today.
Can I answer that? Just before you move.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Wakili, you've made a point.
No, let me finish.
I actually want to.
Let me finish.
Gentlemen.
Just let me finish this. The answer is simple. I was on another media house and Mariba didn't get this. Kenya is just like the proverbial Nigerian folklore, where a house is burning. The owner of that house, being the president and Kenya Kwanza, are busy lamenting that there was a rat that ate their trouser to go to the wedding, to the swearing-in ceremony. So today, they have found that rat and they are chasing the rat called Uhuru Kenyatta. Instead of putting the fire out of the country, we are now being told this happened because of this guy. Let us look for this guy. Unless you people do not understand that you're in power and you have all the instruments of this country under the constitution to deal with the challenges facing Wanjiko, you are busy telling us about Uhuru Kenyatta, you're busy telling us about Raila Odinga. If you have no business and the capacity to run government, just resign and leave. Right. Because Kenyans are not going to buy that story. You're telling us about, it was the other guy, it was the other guy. Those guys are no longer in office. So Mariba, let us be honest. The policy formulation of this government are wrong. Count the examination. What happened? Is it Uhuru Kenyatta who did the fiasco for kids who are below 10 years to face the examination fiasco? Tell us, is it Uhuru Kenyatta under the control when floods are killing people and you see a PR exercise that a cabinet ad hoc committee has been formed to deal with floods? Guys are dying every day. Nobody's saying. Is it with Uhuru Kenyatta, who is in charge of the fiasco of the electricity suckers in this country? Answer that question. Is it Uhuru Kenyatta who is the fiasco in terms of what we are seeing Kenyans not having any job anywhere? Is it Uhuru Kenyatta who is in charge of the fiasco that salaries for the first time, the salaries for the first time are not going to be paid to civil servants? Counties are going to close. I am telling you, and I'm putting you to notice, the populist Kenya Kwanza government that came to power, like the populist Trump of the USA, will be swept out without mercy because they have failed to deliver. And they are busy talking the way Trump was talking about Obama.
Thank you,
he was swept out of office. So Gachagwa's plea that Kenya Kwanza needs to be given 10 years is just a non-starter.
Anki, let me just very quickly respond to a few things he's raised.
Yes.
First of all, he says that you people, I hope he wasn't meaning me because I am not elected.
Thank you for running away. But if you have instruction, but they might be recalled.
But then if they are recalled, I think the president is watching. Wakili Omari has already given me a cabinet position. So remember his words when you actually reconstitute.
Actually, you're fixed to be a cabinet. Actually, tell them that they should employ people like you at cabinet.
But be that as it is, can I respond to that?
And please respond to the aspect.
Number one,
public policy analyst is mentioned that the policy formulation of this government is wrong.
Number one, no, I will not even go to a technical response. I will look at basic indicators. He spoke of the cost of food last year having been cheaper than it is today. Wakili Danstan Omari must be an alien that has just come from space this morning. Last year, at a time like this, getting unga for 200 was impossible.
You remember those COVID?
You remember the COVID? No, let's talk about last year. He spoke. This is his statement. I'm fact-checking it right here.
All right, Malibu.
That as we went to elections, the government even brought in a subsidy to try and have unga for 200 and people could not find it. That at a time like this, we were here trying to talk about unga for 200 and it was impossible. This is December, like any other December we had. Let's talk about like last year's December. Unga is between 130 to 170 depending on what brand you actually buy. If you are a Westerner like myself, you will get a Gorogoro for 90 bob and Siaga with 10 bob and you have got at 100. There are people who are getting it cheaper than that. It's not true. He said that. So that must be fact-checked. The other thing, exams. Since the days of Matiang'i, he doesn't want us to go there. When we gave ourselves these tight timelines and deadlines, we've always had complaints. Again, if you are a reader and a consumer of news, you will know that we have had these complaints almost perennially since we gave ourselves these tight deadlines. I agree with him. We need to review that. If you talk to the examiners, they are complaining they are overworked. Like today as we speak, all the examiners marking KCSE are locked in examination centers, in marking centers. You cannot leave unless you are dead. You are closed in for all that particular time. You don't leave. So, even as we speak about that, there are some policies that need review. Right. Are they Kenya Kwanza specific? No, they are not Kenya Kwanza specific. The economy that he speaks about. Numbers, 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 numbers. I know that if you torture data sufficiently, it can confess to anything you need. But look at inflation last year. Look at where we are. Look at our debt. Look at what we are raising. Look at the debt that is actually maturing this year. We cannot run away from that. And then, he spoke about the blackout eloquently. The national infrastructure did not fall, get dilapidated overnight. All right. Let's also get, the airport did not start leaking because Kenya Kwanza is the one who created the airport. Okay. We neglected a lot of our critical infrastructure. It's now falling apart. I know that I don't agree with the excuse that a national airport can actually go in darkness just because Kenya Power has no power. And I need to actually submit to you and tell you this. All right. That the Kenya Airports Authority does not need Kenya Power to power JKIA. All right. I'll tell you this. Some of us have actually traveled. You will go to a place like Somalia. They don't have a functional grid. But there is no day I have been at those airports when I'm working in that particular country that I've actually found them without power. So the Airports Authority has no excuse on that. But then we cannot lie that the infrastructure became dilapidated just within 1 year of Kenya Kwanza coming to power.
It is only sacking competent people and bringing shareholder tribesmen to run the airport.
So finally,
that is the answer.
Everybody in this country has got a tribe. All of us have got a tribe. All right. So there is no problem with anyone, because even if you were to employ Danstan Omari, people will start talking about Nyamira. So we cannot reduce national dialogue.
As we are not in this shareholding company. Well, Nyamira people
as is who?
No, the Kisses are not in this shareholding company.
That is not true. I needed to finalize by saying this. Yes. That so when we are having a national dialogue of import to this level, let us not really take it back to kindergarten kind of level. Yes, when we actually are quoting tribes, Anki, when you show up, somebody will have to ask, Anki is an English name or whatever, this Doris is an English, so what is the other one? People will always look out for that. So can we raise the debate? All right, can we raise the debate? Let me hear from the Kenyans, and Dr. I'm coming to you. But the Kenyans are also speaking to us this morning, because at the heart of it all is the Kenyan. Thank you very much for sending your feedback. Let's start with Geoffrey Lusamu. No more time, Mr. Deputy President. That way you will be taking Kenyans to be fools. You have never achieved anything you said within the coming 5 years. How sure will Kenya be that you will perform within 10 years? It's taking Kenya for a ride to cling on power and nothing is shown. Thank you, Geoffrey, for your perspective. Kenny, Raila demanding fuel prices to drop as a who? Fuel prices will not drop because it's demanding, but because they're due to drop. Thank you very much, Kenny, for your perspective. Vincent Kiptanu saying clouds are the signs of rain. So at least after 1 year, we should see the signs of progress. We're not seeing it at all, at all. Thank you, Vincent. Kiprop Robert saying the government is clearly working. Last time JKIA was in a full blackout. Yesterday, only Terminal 1A and 1E were affected. In 10 years, this will be the best government to ever exist. Thank you, Kiprop, for your perspective. Oliver Karibata saying, but they have achieved rapidly all bad things, fulfilled none of promises, constant blackouts, high fuel prices, depreciating shilling, billions for their office budgets, millions for their wives. Only Kenyans come last. Oliver, thank you for your feedback. Keep sending your feedback, because besides these panelists, you're equally very, very important in this conversation. Before I take a short breather in 4 minutes, Daktari, you are a governance expert. You are a leadership expert. Wakili here is saying sacking competent people, but is that the only solution really? Is it a policy issue? And if it is cutting down expenditure, we cannot say the president should not travel. He's not the only president who's traveling in Africa.
I think I must thank Kenyans first for being very honest and giving out their thoughts in a very objective manner, not defending any side. Terminal 1A, if I go back there, 1A and 1E are the main terminal in JKIA. There is no any other terminal that is used for international flights, for those of us who have flown in Nairobi. These other terminals are subsidiaries. They are subsidiaries.
Doing an international
yes,
trip
subsidiaries. Right. They are not. They are actually clustered as the low-level terminals, which only serves Somalia and part of Mombasa and East Africa.
So that one we know.
That one we know. So I think the person who has put that fact in perspective, he has spoken and he has finished everything that we were arguing about. Wakili has mentioned issue of capacity in terms of people who are working in the government. It is important to recognize that when the head is not composing himself into what he is supposed to achieve from all aspects of state department's head, then there's a problem. And that's why last time when they were signing the performance contract, he said, those of you whom I understand better, their ministries shouldn't be existing there. And indeed, there are those who don't understand what they are doing. But now, what is happening? I think there's a point that he has mentioned and we shouldn't brush it off, the tribal factor, that the president cannot touch non-performance state personnel just because they belong to certain tribe. And I mean,
he's rebuttaling. I'm sorry.
I know he's rebuttaling.
That's not what he said. What did you say?
What did you say?
When he spoke about the president's tribesmen and people appointing people, and I told him, all of us have tribes. We cannot come here on a national show and say that tribalism is an issue just because certain people are in power, when all of us have tribes. So, and I said that even if I were to bring him up, somebody will talk about Nyamira.
Okay, that's what he said.
I think that's fine. I think we cannot lead a nation by one, appointing tribal, of saying tribal balancing, and therefore you point tribal herdsmen. Number two, you cannot appoint loyalists to work in a government. Why? Government employees are supposed to be functional. Government employees are supposed to be based on particularly the technical people. 1 minute. Particularly technical people that we expect
in government today.
The particularly technical people that we want them to deliver services for Kenyans must be based on their performance and their ability to perform in that ministry. If that is not factored in, then the current crisis will continue. And I think it is time for the president to reflect back on the team he has assembled. We may forgive him because it was the first 1 year was political tension, and there are quite a number of things he was balancing. Now it's a reality. We have not seen any achievement in terms of the performance of the current government structure, and the best thing now is for him to relook at his troops and place them in the right place. There are those who are within the system and they may not be fitting in the current position they are holding, but they might be much better in other ministries. Those who are perfect in what they are doing at the moment in their respective ministries that we know and the Kenyans know, the few of them, they must be appreciated, and those who are not performing very well, the president will continue to be echoed when he goes out of the Nairobi and goes to the community because of 1 or 2 people that he has appointed and they are not performing very well.
All right.
Finally, I just wanted to correct, because there was a statement I made earlier on in regards to the daily collection. It wasn't 50 billion, it is 50 million to 600 million. I mentioned the word billion and none of the panelists spotted that. Per day. And therefore, for record, I think it was 50, according to Director General Isaac Hassan. He says we have been collecting 50 million. Now we have moved from 50 million to 600 million.
50 million what?
Daily collection, shillings. That is 1,200. That is 1,200.
I think he's reporting what the director.
He's talking about the citizen.
E-citizen, yeah. Only e-citizen, yeah.
All right. Allow me, Wakili, take a very short breather. And value for money is the question on this daily. President says, because after the Azimio, an ODM leader called the president out on the exporting of labor, saying the government should create jobs for the Kenyans in this country. Of course, we spoke to a number of youth when we were looking at the preparations for the Jamhuri Day. A number of youth just came out to, cry out the unemployment and the difficult life amidst the high cost of living. But the president says his travels aimed at securing jobs for the unemployed youth. We're looking at the president in our analysis spending about 360 million shillings on 48 foreign travels. Let me ask you this morning. Is there value for money? Keep it objective. We'll be right back with your feedback and the panelists after this break.
Everybody has got to learn how to put in some effort and some energy in order to make their dreams come to pass. Manage your resources, especially in this day when we are all out there looking for money. You've got to learn how to synchronize your rhythm. The first thing that I will talk about is be clear about where you want to go. It's said, and it is nearly cliche, that leaders are readers. Rest is a state where you disconnect from things that exert or